LaFerrari.
Exciting. Randy just set a lap time in the P1 at Road Atlanta. How was it?
I'm alive! Help me! That was a wild ride. Oh, this car is so powerful. The P1 just rips down the straightaways. You feel it right here in your sternum. It just rips, and it's moving the whole time. It's just dancing these jigs and going a little this way and that way, and then it'll understeer, and then it'll oversteer real big. This car, it's like driving a circus with flames and elephants and acrobats all at once. It is a wild ride, and it goes like a J-tow missile. This car is low, it's stiff.
And you were driving in a race mode.
Oh,
you
yeah.
had race mode on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir. It was in race mode, but I don't believe stability control was all the way off.
Okay.
If it was, I did a great job.
You were tearing it up out there. It is a wild ride, though.
It's a wild ride. It accelerates so hard that driving Road Atlanta is a completely different experience. Because there's a lot of places I can't use full throttle where I do in every other car I've ever driven here. And I had to make little straightaways, like out of the S's, drop down in the S's, and usually it's just flat, right? Well, no, this is like, the weight transfer, I mean, the front wheels have got to be off the ground. And maybe they'll all be this fast, but I do know that the P1 is a bit of a wild child. It's a bit of a wild ride, and it was, Jonathan.
Sounds like you loved it.
I loved every minute of it, but I was also glad when it was over.
Yeah.
Because the braking was not the most trustworthy. You didn't get a real linear relationship between your pedal pressure and the stopping G. So all the way down the straightaway, I'm thinking in my head, I hope this thing stops. Because you get in that, I think the regen and the regular hydraulic brakes, you know, it's a hybrid, so it's regenerating electricity, and that creates a lot of braking force. And the relationship between those systems was not as good yet in this generation. And So when I first go to the brake, the car doesn't stop all that well. And then we come down the hill and it levels out. And the whole time it's not stopping that well, I'm like, oh, how am I going to apologize to them? Because you have a lot of time to think about it. You know, being in the gravel, what's the gravel going to do to the, I'm thinking about these things in the brake zone. And then you get down on the level and all of a sudden everything wakes up. And I remember this from the former test. And the car goes, and it slows down and it's squealing and it's yawing back and not.
So it's moving a lot.
A lot in the brake zone too. It's moving a lot all the time, but in the brake zone, and then it goes like this, and then I turn, and I'm like, oh, I made it.
Well, we're glad you're back. Are you ready to try out a few of the other ones?
Oh yeah.
Which one do you want to go to next?
Bring them on.
So we're gonna go to the Huayra next.
Let's go to the Huayra BC.
This may be the most difficult one of the day.
I don't know.
You don't know.
See.
We'll see. Let's go to the Huayra.
It was fun though. Wow, you can tell I'm pumped.
You're juiced.
So I'm going to be getting in the Pagani with a full load of adrenaline.
Let's do it.
But hey, we're all addicted.
We're ready.
Bring it.
Let's go. We're gearheads. I love it, Randy. It's a special day.
How I ever caught the wiper button in there.
Time on Road Atlanta. Randy right here pulling it in. It's artwork, but we also believe it's really fast.
Who's the luckiest guy on earth today?
Randy.
Me. Oh man, where's that door?
What'd you think, Randy?
That was a wonderful experience, Tom. It was very different from the McLaren. I'm not surprised and pleased to be alive. This car, what strikes me the most about the Pagani Huayra BC is that it combines the artistry and the boutique car with the racetrack performance. It's not just for looks. This car is so beautifully balanced that I could just go and go. And I don't have nearly as much adrenaline coursing through my veins right now.
You look very comfortable.
The lap time was still good. Yeah, because it's driver friendly. It's beautifully balanced. When you turn for the corner, just the geometry is right in this car. It just carves into that corner with no drama. You know where you're going to go. You can commit to the power, and there's a lot of it, a lot of torque. You can commit to the power and just, like turn one, drive it up that hill and it hooks up, even on street tires. It has none of the crazy motions that the P1 did. The P1 is downright frightening, frankly. The Huayra is not. This car is your friend. You can go fast with this thing, and its braking. Its braking is incredibly good. The ABS doesn't engage until a lot of pressure, and the response is instant. Especially the McLaren just isn't very good at that, and so driving the Huayra BC right after the McLaren, it was even more striking the way the brakes would respond instantly. Boom! And that just felt so good, you know, because we come 700 plus horsepower, 650 pounds of torque or more. You're coming to those corners with, you know, rockets, afterburners running. And when you go to the brake, you want to feel them bite, right? Like, oh! Remember I mentioned your Carrera GT? You talked about how great the bite was, but I had just come out of this car. This car's even better.
You spoke to how thin the pedal was on this one, even thinner than the Carrera GT.
The response is instant.
So you love the brakes?
I love the brakes. I love the handling. I'm not in love with the transmission, although at flat out speeds, it's okay. It's okay, but I want those lightning shifts that I'm spoiled by in dual clutch trannies and race cars like that. I shifted manually, and I went to second gear down in the slow corner once. I went to third down here once, but not necessary. Okay. It's got such a fat torque curve. The Huayra puts power down well too. It does not give these sudden scary wheel spins. It just hooks. And that's why I gotta compliment the Pagani team, because even with their small team and a very limited manufacturer, this chassis works. It stops. It puts power down. It's confidence inspiring entering a corner, and it has loads and loads and loads of torque. It's very impressive. It's not just for the art. It's not just the looks. This baby's got game.
That means a lot coming from you. So I think knowing that the car is fast and can be driven fast. Well, what do you want to do next? You want to go on to the LaFerrari?
It's first in line. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's stay in Italy.
Let's move. has to say about the LaFerrari.
Thank you very much. Wow.
What'd you think?
Well, the LaFerrari is more of the P1 experience. This car is a little bit wilder ride again. It's not so hooked as the Pagani Huayra BC is. It's very, very powerful, but the power is only given to you in spurts. I think it's the electricity. I come off a corner and I feel that thing, you know, the hand of God shoves you forward, but it takes a while to come in, right? And the gearbox is a little slow, and it bounces off the limiter. in second and a little bit in third. I remember yelling at it. I'm like, come on, Ferrari, get off the limiter. Because if I was coaching you driving that way, I'd be like, what are you doing?
Right.
Shift earlier before you catch that limiter. And that really hurt it in a critical spot coming on the back straight. The car would go down to second gear. I left it in automatic. If I was smarter, I might have started shifting manually and used third, but I wasn't smart enough to do that. And so it bounced off the limiter going to third for a while, like da-da-da-da-da. That's a long time. And then it just took off like crazy. I might have had my best speed through 9. I don't know. When I quit looking, it was in the high 170s. And then I had to take both hands off the wheel and like pray. The car, the brake pedal is not real linear. When I go to the brake, I don't get that, brake force. No, it's kind of, come on, come on. In fact, on my best lap, I just, for you, Shashi, I was like, for Shashi. And I just kept my foot in it longer down that hill. And somebody said something about 300 this morning. I'm like, not this guy. 300 is way down there. And I was like, whoa, and it's going, go. And it's not moving around like the P1 does, but it's moving around a little bit. But there's just something not as confidence inspiring as I want with this kind of power.
So what are your top 3 takeaways on the LaFerrari?
LaFerrari, well, the crazy high revving Ferrari Formula One noises, the incredible power, but not all the time, and bouncing the limiter on the upshifts in the lower gears.
Awesome.
Wait, I have 4. And
Okay.
the braking, just not as direct, linear, and immediate as I want at these speeds.
Perfect. You ready to do the 918? Let's go to Germany.
Let's go. Let's go to Germany.
let's go.
This is the car I have the most time in. The 918 is the most like a normal car.
Right.
And it drives more like a normal car. The all-wheel drive traction was a real boon. I could commit to power with a lot of confidence, and the car really hooked up. Interestingly, it's a little soft, even in race mode, for these areas like turn 2, where I charge into a corner, and then I've got to lift and go to brake. And that made the tail move just a little bit.
Right.
And it hurt it a little bit. Couldn't be quite as aggressive as I wanted to on some of the entries. The electricity was gone by the 3rd lap.
Right.
So it made everything an easy flat.
Right. Right.
It was the first time, I hate to admit this to everyone, that I went through turn 9 all the way completely on the floor without even thinking about lifting. Because without the electricity, boy, that makes a big difference.
So do you feel like, based on, you've got more experience in this car than any of the other cars, do you feel like that was a big part of this, is the confidence you had going in, knowing your experience in this car? Do you
No.
think it helped?
No.
Okay.
No, it didn't. I did have more confidence in the car, and I knew it was a confidence-inspiring car. It was well sorted.
Right.
But what held this car back is its weight. I could feel it, especially like in the S's.
Right.
In the S's, where in the P1 or the Pagani, I could go right, left, right.
Right.
This car just, it's a little slower to make those quick direction changes.
Right. Right.
And it was really a pleasure to drive. And I think what the only thing that held it back was it's heavier, and it's a lot heavier. You can't hide that kind of weight.
No, you can't. No, you really can't. What did you think about the brakes coming down?
Second best in the group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second best.
Clearly better than the LaFerrari or the P1 and its behavior under braking, just planted and stopping. But the Pagani just absolutely
Came away very impressed.
It's the overachiever of this group. From that tiny company, they make that car work so well. And I did not expect that.
So just curious, going back to this 1 second, how did you compare the all-wheel drive in this compared to all the other cars being rear-wheel drive? And advantages, disadvantages, or what do you think?
Well, you're on the right track. Number one, I know it's all-wheel drive.
Right.
So I had a lot of confidence coming off a corner, and it's definitely an advantage, especially in turn 7, to know that I can just commit and I'm not going to get a sudden sideways. But the Pagani puts the power down so well that it's not the advantage it would have been. It's a big advantage over the LaFerrari and especially the P1. The P1 is the one most likely to spin up the back tires. Right. And this is the least. But the Pagani has good geometry and it grips the road. And they've got the anti-squat right or something. And it grips. So I could commit to power real early with that car, even with that monstrous torque that it had.
Very interesting.
This car has a really sweet gearbox.
Oh,
the shifting is just beautiful.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It's the best on gearbox of all of them.
So, final 3 takeaways from this. What were your, if you could sum it up in 3 takeaways, what were they?
The all-wheel drive traction of the hybrids running the front tires and the engine running the back. The sweet shifting gearbox that always did the right thing. It was just beautiful. And it's a mind reader. And the third would be keep your batteries up.
Keep your batteries up.
Because it's amazing how slow 600 horsepower feels when you're used to 900.
Well, there it is. Well, thank you so much for your help with all this and fascinating insight into these cars and I think some real surprises out here today based on what we maybe thought was going to happen. So we appreciate you being here and
so amazing
at
to
our
get
first
to do this.
Merit Partners Hypercar Invitational and having you here to do it with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bert. I really
pleasure.
enjoyed it.
Real pleasure.
It was great.